Did you know that over 70% of people, apparently, according to surveys and things, of British people actually acknowledge the obvious truth now that has affected us all, and that's the UK has changed drastically over the last 10 years, not just a little bit. And so you can imagine, when I had been out the country for 18 years and I came back in 23, the differences were just stark and shocking and a little upsetting at that time. So now I've been here for 2 years. I've had time to digest. I've had time to look at things in the cold light of day. In February this year, I actually made a short video about I had returned to England after 18 years, and at that time it was very, very softly type of approach, just really reflecting on some changes that I had seen, but I've seen in the last 2 years of living here that things are a lot worse than I thought when I moved back here. So let's look at it today. I just wanted to share with my fellow Brits before I leave the country this summer just a few things, a few aspects of this whole change going on, and see if there's any strategies that we can put into place to help our country out. Hi, if we haven't met yet, my name's Steffi. I married an American English girl, moved to the States in 2004, stayed there for 18 years, came back and to be with my dear mum, who's since passed away. My husband had had a brain cancer diagnosis and he had passed away prior to me leaving the US. So I am now in a situation 2 years down the line where I'm actually re-evaluating my move and planning on a move back to the USA. So let's start with today thinking about what Britain is renowned for and famous for. So is it still the land of fish and chips, I wonder? Is it still the land of red double-decker buses? Is it still the land of afternoon tea, getting changed, going out, that kind of thing? So I've been thinking about it, and I'm thinking about the things that we are good at and the things that have kept our country pretty unique across the world, I think. But the UK is in a state of flux right now, let's face it. 2025. So we are a nation of tradition, and I see that we still have an enduring love of cups of tea. As I'd mentioned in another video yesterday, it's a very common thing still. Would you like a cup of tea when people visit? But I've noticed also that there has been a radical change towards cups of coffee now. And so even when I meet up with a friend, I'll choose coffee over tea. I think it's just the environment, it's what's on offer, it's what's advertised and what we think is trendy, what we think is just cool, I think. But the culture as regards cups of tea and tea drinking, definitely, even though we are still a nation of tea drinkers, that's been impacted by the different kinds of cultures that we've been embracing, I think. So yeah, and then the royal family, I've noticed again there's been some scandalous stuff going on with certain members of the royal family. So I think the monarchy is a precious thing overall, even though people might have their different views on it. It still has a special place in, or they, I should say, has a special place in many people's hearts. And I'm glad for the UK that we do actually have a royal family, because they are a symbol of history, of stability, and we sure need that at the moment. So I think that's a wonderful thing. But any comments below, I'll be glad to hear them. So I actually am glad to see that we still have our royal family, and I hope that actually we can continue with the royal family as we progress on into future decades. So the other thing that I've noticed with the pub culture, so yes, we still have that to a large extent, but I think there's a mixture of things going on with the pub culture. First of all, many pubs have closed, which is shocking to see. The novelty, historic, very unique type of pubs are still going because they get probably more publicity, more support from locals or whatever, maybe governmental, I don't know. But I'm thankful that we have numerous really neat historic pubs in England, still in the UK. But I have seen quite a change in the atmosphere of people going into the pub, where it is still a community thing. There's a lot more hostility, there's a lot more distrust, there's a lot more resentments actually, because there's more people from different cultures coming in, and the problems that may arise from that, or the difficulties that may arise from that. So I have seen that as well. So while the pub life is a cornerstone of British life still, the actual feeling, the whole thing about going out for a pint or after work, it's diminished quite a lot in a lot of people's lives. If you have a quite high income, you've still got money to pay for a pint, but I think a pint now is at least £4 a pint. Is it £4? Maybe more than that. So it's shocking to see that not too many people can afford to go and drink in a pub anymore. So all of these factors concerned have changed, even though we still have our pub culture. I've seen that even in the last 2 years that I've been back here in the UK, doesn't quite have that same atmosphere, although when you actually get in there and you just absorb the culture and enjoy the scenery, especially if you're in an oldie worldy type of pub, you can still soak the atmosphere in, but it's changed, definitely changed. All right, so we are in a digital world now, and when I left to go to the USA, it was 2004, and 2004 we didn't even have Facebook. Think on that for a moment. We didn't have Facebook, and we didn't have numerous other social platforms. And so from the time that I left, you can imagine again, that time space has seen an enormous digital revolution going on. And I say revolution because it's brought in a whole new set of habits, mannerisms, attitudes, especially with all the generations coming up now, where they have a phone all the time, where they're online all the time. We could all sit there all day saying about the pros and cons of the digital world. But as a teacher, this is something that I wanted to share with you guys, that it's very obvious that the digital aspect of children's lives is really distracting them. Let's put it like that. It's a thing in their lives now where, when we were growing up, in my generation, we used to go out to play. We used to go out and play in the garden and all those other outsidey type things, with no heads down in our phones. And so we were much more social, actually. And I've seen in my classrooms, I've seen that effect of the digital on the children. They're just not used to listening. They're not used to concentrating for more than a few minutes at the time, what I call the TikTok concentration level. Nothing against TikTok really, but just saying, these social platforms, and they are really designed for a lot faster, shorter concentration, let's face it. So the whole thing of our community spirit has gone. I think it has gone for the most part. Now, people in Scotland, people in Wales, you may have a different perspective in the south of east of England. I don't think we have too much of that. We don't have the community. Occasionally you'll see something pop up where you'll see something being advertised, a meeting for something or other, but usually doesn't happen. People are in their houses, on their screens, and me included. Oftentimes when I get home from work, it's so much easier just to put your screen on and look at some things that you want to look at on there, and we don't have to spend any extra money. That's another aspect, isn't it? So the cost of living crisis, which I won't go into right now because obviously that's a huge subject, but suffice it to say that back to the digital type of thing, online shopping. So my area, we do actually have a pretty good high street still, and it is pretty much the same as when I left, but I think that's largely because it's a bigger town, it's a more well-known town, and maybe again there's more funding for shops to keep open, but the online shopping has obviously had a big effect on the high streets. At this point, I'd like to give a shout out actually to Joe Fish. I've been seeing a few of his videos recently. He does an excellent job of, he travels mainly in the southwest, but he's been to Birmingham, he's been to different areas of England, I think mainly England, and he's highlighting and exposing the ghost towns of England and the decay and the neglect of high streets and areas, and it's just tragic to see. It's tragic to see the homeless people as well, the homeless on the rise. So I'm just mentioning these things because I've obviously been watching and looking and learning in my 2 years back in the UK. So the social media's influence, I think, is just, it has its really major good points, like communication, in one sense that we can actually communicate with people over in the States when we're here in England or India or South Africa or wherever it might be, Europe of course. So I do think that that huge pro is a wonderful thing, but together with that, the negatives have changed our whole lives. So people come home and they're in their houses. Everything's almost going on behind closed doors. That's something that I heard recently. This time someone was talking about French people, but it's the same in the UK. I would say very similar, that people are a lot more insular. So that's definitely something that I think that we just need to foster, actually, as Brits. I think we need to try our best to keep hold of that wonderful community spirit that we certainly used to have a generation or so ago in this country. So the economy, whoa, I know many people are really angry and upset about what's happened since we've left Brexit. So whether you voted for them or not, all of that was happening, by the way, when I was over in the US. I have to say, I didn't pay too much attention to it actually at the time. I didn't really get involved with it, but apparently there has been like a 5% decline in UK trade with the EU, since Brexit. So I think we're now in the process of trying to navigate new ways of trading, and so that's another hindrance, that it has probably caused higher prices and other issues, like Brits can't leave now. They can't go to a European country anyway. so easily anymore. They've got the visas to get, and I think some people actually feel a bit trapped by that. So with the obvious fact of immigration happening 2025, it's well known, it's been very well publicized by now. Huge subject, but I just want to say that however it's going to go, I think we need to acknowledge that our country's not the same anymore, and we need to speak up if we don't agree with it. I think the threat and the risk of being arrested even by saying things on Facebook and YouTube or whatever, I think we should be able to say how we feel. I think we should have our freedom of speech back in the United Kingdom. And I say back because I really feel like we've lost that to a certain degree. So I think it's very important that we say things kindly, we say things calmly, we're not cursing and swearing at people, that we make our point in a professional, eloquent way, but at the same time we should be able to speak what we're feeling. And I know that many Brits are feeling totally let down right now by what's going on. And so please, let's see what we can do to, in a peaceable way, to echo our thoughts, echo our desires for change, desires for modification, desires for a better system. Does that make sense? So how can we make things better in our country? Better in our country. So I know there's a lot of political division right now. There are people who are too scared to say anything, but I think at some stage we as British people need to stand up for our traditions. We need to stand up for our country. So what's your thinking about what I've said? These are some insights that are not unique, of course, and many people can see them, but I just wanted to share as a fellow Brit, and I want my viewers to know especially that me leaving the UK doesn't mean that I hate the UK. It doesn't mean that I'm leaving it in my heart. I'm British born, English girl. I do think that, if you will allow me to say that, I think in the UK we have 4 countries. We have England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland, and I do think that it's important to, at times, not relinquish, not give away our Welsh, Scottish identity, but at the same time I really think that we should sometimes put aside those boundary differences, historical differences, and regroup a little bit and re-examine who we are as a nation. So thank you for hearing me on that. If you've got any thoughts, feelings, I'd like to hear about it in the comments. So thank you for watching, and if you'd like to see my original, I came back to England after 18 years and it's going to be somewhere here. So beautiful, isn't it? I hope you guys can appreciate all that. But thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Cheerio.